This episode of Resilience in Relationships is sponsored by the Set Me Free Project.
Hi, welcome to Resilience in Relationships. I'm Rebecca Saunders, and I'm here with
Stephanie Olson
and
and
Yeomans.
Woo! We're together again.
Finally. It's been a long time since it's been the three of us.
I think
It's been a while.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm happy.
We're going to have a lot of fun
Yes.
today because we're looking at TikToks. And who doesn't love
Okay.
that?
We're stepping out of my universe a little bit on this
Yes, we're going to do some reacting. So this will be fun. Is this the first time we've done TikTok reacting with Dylan?
I think so.
I think when I very first started, we had like a TikTok in an episode, but never like a full-blown reactionary, like we're just going to rapid fire. So I'm looking forward to this. This will be fun.
This will be fun. And this is on healthy relationships. So a little different than we've done before.
And it's because the people have spoken. We asked on YouTube, what would you like to see more of? And you said healthy relationships and reacting to TikTok. So we said, let's do it together.
Let's do both.
I like that. Okay.
Told me something the other day that really stuck with me. He said, never ask a man for time, never ask a man for attention, and never ask a man to plan a date. Just sit back and really pay attention. Watch what he does, because what a man chooses to do without being asked tells you everything you need to know. My brother.
Okay. Interesting.
I got to tell you, that's a lot of psychic prediction there.
It's pressure.
Yikes.
It's pressure for sure.
That's a lot of miscommunication waiting to happen. And that's a lot of hurt feelings that can be avoided waiting to happen. To me, that's terrible. And I'll tell you why. I don't hate the message entirely because, again, I like the actions speak louder than words. I get that that's the echoing message in the background here. I don't know if I care necessarily of how it's phrased there. Because, yes, I get it. A man should want to spoil, pamper, take care of, treat, however you want to phrase that, to their significant other, and vice versa. Everybody should want to do that with their partner, regardless of man or woman roles or whatever. I think in that regard, though, you need to communicate to a degree of, hey, you like certain things, like if you like to be treated out to a night out, or if you like gifts, if that's sort of how you speak in your love languages, or maybe it's just a nice night in, you cooked dinner at home and you sat together and that was the night. Things like that need to be communicated with pretense to things like these, because if you just take this and took this advice and go into your relationship, boy, you're going to be very disappointed with how men can never read your mind, or how your significant other that you're trying to chase and appease can never read your mind and never understand why you're so frustrated with them.
I love that perspective. And that was actually my very first thought, was you are creating a whole lot of requirement and expectations on somebody when people are totally different. And you mentioned love languages. That is a huge piece of the puzzle, I think, because my love language actually is personal touch and words of affirmation. So those are kind of my love languages. My husband's are totally opposite. He is acts of service and time. But and we had to work this out very early on, he would do something. For example, he would take the trash out, or he would do the dishes, and he'd be like, hey, thanks for doing the dishes. But for him, it was, this means I love you. This is so important. I didn't get it. I think that if you're waiting for your partner to do something and they don't do it, it might not be because they're just not that into you. I don't know if you guys remember that book. That was awesome.
Yeah. They made that into a movie in the early 2000s, I believe.
I know. I thought the movie was terrible. The book was fabulous.
Doesn't it always go that way?
That's right. But I think you're probably in for a real big shock, because what is a love language to me is not going to be for somebody else. And you do need to ask. You do need to tell your significant other, I need this from you. And then if they don't give it to you, that's a whole other story.
And if you have a background of being in relationships where you are begging for affection, or you're just really not being treated well, I can see how you might shift to this perspective of like, I'm
Right.
not going to ask at all. But I think it's a healthy balance in between of I'm going
Right.
to communicate to you what is important to me and what I need. And then if you're ignoring that, I'm not going to stay in a place where I'm not being valued.
Exactly. There was an old movie called Love Story before both of your times, I'm sure. But the big phrase in that movie was love means never having to say you're sorry, which is also a bunch of crap.
Terrible advice.
That's right.
Horrible advice.
And so I think we get these that, oh, you shouldn't have to ask for time and attention. It sounds very romantic, but really bad advice and in for a world of hurt. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, we're all romantics at heart, right? Like we all would love for love to fix all.
And the interesting thing about this is you can see the amount of likes and shares. So these TikToks, just for viewers at home to know, the way that we find these is I scroll too much. And so I just typed in healthy relationships and I found some, tried really hard not to listen to them, like had my volume down, not reading captions if there are any, and just trying to look at comments and description. And I'm like, okay, this is highly
Okay.
rated. So these are all the most popular. So that means
Okay.
a good amount of people
Interesting.
agree with what was said.
Yes, this is
Wow.
that's a really interesting point that you make. And I will tell you, I think that there is a lot of ridiculousness around relationships that is out there. And I would say take it from somebody who has been married for 29 years. It's hard. It's hard. It's not all that ooey gooey romantic feeling. It's hard work.
It is. It takes a
Yeah.
lot of work and energy. And I think that's something about like my age bracket of generation too, I think struggles a lot with relationships because, and I don't think this is a direct slight to anything or anybody or any parents out there. We were kind of that first media generation where media boomed and took off and
Right.
it was VHS to DVD and like we saw everything in between, right?
And we
And I
really
think-
should have seen some of that too.
Yeah, and I think that was part of it. Is like we got exposed to so much so fast, so early
Yeah, it's
that
true.
and I know I had to, just as me personally, I'll speak, I had to deal with this kind of maturing through this in life, of course. You had to learn very early in some of the relationships too that relationships don't work like what you see. You don't see it on TV work like that. You don't see it work in a movie like that. Oh, it just works itself out magically.
Right.
And you kind of go into them sometimes with those beliefs. And
Exactly.
especially early dating. I mean, we've all had our blunders in relationships, I'm sure. But, in high school, when you're first trying to figure some of that stuff out, and then it's such a reality shaker because nobody really ever thought about having that talk of like, you do know that this isn't close to how this really works, right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And unfortunately, I don't think that has, and because, whether breaking up or divorce is so easy. So if it just, if it doesn't work out the way it does in the movies, we're getting rid of it. So
you should never fight and all those kinds of things. I mean, it makes it to where when you have your first conflict, which is totally normal in relationships to not agree on everything, it feels like the end of the world.
Yes. Okay. Well, let's try a different one.
Talks about how peaceful life gets when you're with a really good partner whose only mission is to make your life better. Not louder, not more exciting, but just peaceful.
Right.
You wake up and your nervous system is calm. You're not wondering where you stand.
Yeah.
You're not trying to decode mixed signals. There's no guessing game, no silent punishment, no feeling like you have to earn basic kindness. A good partner doesn't add stress to your life. They remove it. They look at your life and think, how can I make this easier for you?
Mm-hmm.
Not because they're trying to impress you, but because that's just who they are. They care about your peace.
Yeah.
And when you experience that kind of love, you start realizing how loud chaos used to be. All the confusion, all the overthinking, all the nights you spent wondering if you mattered. Then one day you're sitting next to someone who simply shows up consistently and it feels quiet. Have you ever noticed how calm your body feels around the right person?
Mm-hmm.
That's not boring. That's safety. That's respect. That's real love.
Yeah.
And once you experience that kind of peace, you'll never again confuse chaos with passion.
But it looks like you got some thoughts.
And a whole lot of thoughts, because here's what I'll say. Overall, I get the premise. The premise is that a healthy relationship, I've been in a toxic relationship before, and the stress and it's chaos. It's chaos. And that is what a lot of people, I think, gravitate towards because that they view chaos as exciting or things like that. And so I get that premise. My concern with how it's being said, because it is true that if you are in a healthy relationship, there is less stress and there is a peace underlying that relationship that I can see. But that TikTok made it sound like every day is bliss or every day is stress free or that always waking up and saying, "What can I do for you today?" That's not reality. And reality is that you're going to have arguments, you're going to have moments of chaos, whether it doesn't mean it's toxic chaos, but you're going to have moments where you're not agreeing, and you know what? There are days that because we're only talking about someone else, but that you are going to wake up and feel very selfish and self-centered. And your first thought is, how can I make your life better today? Your thought is, why aren't they making my life better today? And that's just relationship. And that doesn't mean that you're not in a healthy relationship if you experience those moments of frustration and it's not all butterflies. And I don't know, the way that sounded unrealistic. And a lot of people hearing something like that are like, well, my relationship must be horrible because I don't feel that every moment of every day. I
Yeah.
don't know.
I
Thoughts?
also wasn't super in love with how she made this very romanticized idea of your partner. Like he was a sanctuary. Like
Yes.
every day was bliss and peace with him and because of him and because of it's like no that's dangerous because if you can't provide yourself with peace and yourself with happiness and yourself with content, there's nothing anybody else can do. That's not what that is. That's a borderline delusion at that point because you're just believing that this person, because they exist and are around you, you're fine, you're peaceful. That doesn't work that way.
It seems very codependent. And I feel like
Mm.
I was disagreeing with her and then agreeing with the sentence and then disagreeing again because I have had a relationship where it felt chaotic and stressful. And that was just kind of baseline. And so it was like, oh, we're having a good day that is not that. And that stood out to me. So I understand like what she's saying that your baseline should be calm. But I think that you're right, that it should come from a place of, I have done the work on myself. I have learned that I am worthy of respect. And then I found someone who is also understanding them about themselves and others. And now we come together and create something healthy.
Yes.
And it's not healthy, by the way, if your partner is always 100% of the time thinking, what can I do for you right now?
No
It's
kidding.
not normal.
No kidding. Well, and I'm a faith gal. And so my foundation is on my faith, and everything kind of comes under that for me. And so that's where I find my peace and my sanctuary, so to speak. It's not in a human being. And if you are really looking at your
Always gonna let
partner
you down.
yes, they're always going to let you down because they are very human. And so your partner can't be the person who's rescuing you from anything. It's not gonna
No, I
work.
mean, you can only pick up the pieces so many times before you just get tired. Like,
Yeah.
I think I'd come across one that I don't think we have it on today's list, but I actually did come across a video too that I thought about saving. I really should have because it was a very, very interesting male perspective video, but it seemed
Mm,
very heavy and almost overly
mm.
so. Like the tone was almost too dramatized. And it's like it brought up a very valid point for men, but then it just overtoned it to and I think that's where I'm connecting to this video is I think it had a
Mhm.
very like I understand the message, right? And I get what she was trying to get across. Again, wording and how it was conveyed.
I think when you say something that seems all or nothing, that's where you go awry. That your relationship is never going to be all calm and peaceful. I was talking to someone who was in a very new marriage, and they had this impression that their marriage was like this ideal marriage to look up to. They really believed that they were like, people
After
should,
like a few months.
it was like a couple months. Yeah.
They
People
were the
should
Johnsons at
follow
the end of the
us.
block, huh?
Right. Exactly. People should follow us and learn from us because this is what marriage should look like. And I actually looked at her and said, until you have been married 20 years or so and you have contemplated killing your husband at any given time, don't talk to me about this because we need to talk reality. I mean,
That's not
here's
storm yet.
no. I mean, I adore my husband. I really don't want to kill him. However,
But
what I
some
will
days,
that's right. There are days where it's like, there's a great story about a man who was interviewed. He and his wife had been married 50 years. And the interviewer was asking him, how have you stayed together for so long? And he said, we never fell out of love at the same time. And that's marriage. That's that long term. It's not going to be what she described every day. And if you are expecting that every day, and then you look at your partner and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't have that. We must not have a good relationship. That's sad. That's not right.
I think we need to remember too, like, you are not a pleasant person every day. None of us are. Not talking about you, Stephanie.
Are you talking about Dylan? Are you talking about Dylan?
You too.
don't let these Hawaiian skirts fool you.
But you know what I mean? We can all self-evaluate and say, like, do you ever have a bad day?
Yeah.
Have you said something you regret? Have you been too snippy? We all have. So you can't expect another human to live up to a standard that you can't.
No,
Yeah.
I think that's a great point. All right. This is fun. Okay.
Oh, and I messed up my reference too. It's not the Johnsons. It was the Joneses at the end of the block.
The Joneses,
Yeah.
they're all,
It's all the same.
You know what's funny? I was born a Smith. My mom married my dad later, my biological father, the whole story. But my mom married my dad who adopted me when I was 6. His name is Brown. And so I was a Brown for most of my life until I married my husband, and he's Olson. So I've had all of the common names except for Jones or Johnson. So yeah, that's me.
And here I've lived my whole life with people mispronouncing my name.
Yeah, but it's a great name. It's a fun name. It's good.
I don't hate my name by any means, but I always think back to a track meet of mine in like junior high. This poor kid, they had this kid announcing, and for people who know me, I have a long hyphenated last name. And this kid goes to pronounce it. First off, calls me Dylian, off to a strong start.
What?
Then goes, Dylian.
That's awesome.
Don't know how I got an extra syllable and a vowel in my name, but it happened. And then proceeds to put both of my last names together into like an amalgamation. So it was like Strawmans. And so it was one of the most hilarious things because I didn't know what this guy was talking about. So I didn't report in for the race.
That's fun. Well, I don't blame you. It's not your name.
Yep. And the track coach came up to me after the race and he's like, why weren't you in this race? I'm like, he didn't call my name. He goes up to the announcer's box and figured out that the kid just butchered it.
That is hilarious.
I've never heard Dylan. Like, I felt like that one was easy.
Yeah, that should be a pretty easy
Dylan.
one. Okay, no more.
Dylan's usually the mispronunciation, but Dylian was the one-off that I will always remember.
Fancy.
Because that was just too extreme.
I love it. All right, here we go.
No one talks about getting into a healthy relationship after being in a bad one for years. How strange it is to meet kindness and not know where to put it. To have someone reach for your hand and not flinch, but still feel like you should. No one talks about how you keep waiting for the switch. The moment the softness turns sharp. You tell yourself you're safe, but your body remembers a version of love that made you small just to survive it. It's the little things that shake you. The way they listen without interrupting. The way they don't raise their voice, the way they stay. And you want to trust it, but part of you is still watching the door. You keep apologizing for things that don't need forgiveness. You overthink the silence. You study their face for signs of disappointment because before that was your warning to start shrinking. No one talks about how peace feels foreign, how calm feels like danger when you've only ever known chaos as love. Healing doesn't end when someone good shows up. It just changes shape. It's learning to stop running from gentle things. It's learning to believe that love can stay without taking pieces of you to do it. And one day, you notice you're not holding your breath anymore. You're not waiting for the storm. You're just standing there in the quiet, finally realizing this is what love is supposed to feel like.
Anyone?
I don't want to.
I have
I think
mixed
so.
views on that. Go ahead.
I have a lot of mixed view on that because like that's a super tough line to walk there. First of all, I feel like a lot of that falls on the person themselves to sort a lot of that out before you start dating again. That like that's some stuff you yourself, have to come into a good space to pursue that option again, right? Like some of that was a little further than I thought that was even going to go. I'm like, okay, that I get where some of that can make a little bit of sense. But I feel like that also puts a really pressured, unhealthy point on the partner. Because if you're constant apologizing for things that don't need apologized for, you're trying to not flinch when their hand goes towards you. And I just feel like that's a lot of mental towards the partner that you got to be real ready for stuff like that. And if there's no dialogue about that, that's a real blow.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those things that you might not realize until you're in it.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Because it seems to me like, okay, trauma response to what's happening. Maybe you've thought you've healed and you've gotten in this relationship and you realize that, okay, this is crazy. And I think it's what you do with it at that point that you realize.
This episode of Resilience in Relationships is sponsored by the Set Me Free Project. At the Set Me Free Project, we believe that prevention is powerful. And through our Ready to Stand curriculum, we equip youth, parents, educators, and industry professionals of all kinds with the tools to recognize human trafficking, navigate digital spaces safely, and build healthy relationships before exploitation can occur. Our mission at the Set Me Free Project is to stop human trafficking before it starts by providing prevention education to all ages.
Are you having open communication with your partner and letting them know, hey, like this is my history. This is what I've come from. Here's some things I'm struggling with. If you're not willing to have that conversation, you shouldn't be in a relationship.
I think that's 100% the biggest piece of it there. If that conversation never gets had and then that video follows as such, I don't know how that's really fair to either one of the people in that relationship.
So here's what I will say. I can see both sides of what you're saying. I was that person. I came from a very abusive relationship and went into a healthy relationship, which I think, first of all, is unusual because healthy attracts healthy. So if you're somebody who is not, to your point, Dylan, the whole healing before you're in a relationship, you really should. Absolutely. If you're coming from an abusive relationship, you should take time to heal, to come to fullness with yourself before you move into a healthy relationship. The catch, though, is that when you do move into a healthy relationship, you're still conditioned for this. And so because that conditioning has happened, even if it's kind of like a dog who has been abused and then comes into a healthy home. And the hand raises for no reason and the dog flinches because the dog is used to getting hit. Or I know a dog who was beaten by newspapers, apparently, back in the day. And so when there was a newspaper around, the dog would freak out. And so I think there's a bit of conditioning. And so I do get that piece that when you go into a healthy relationship, you're still conditioned for that unhealthy relationship and you don't know how to respond to healthy, even though you've learned. And so I do think, though, that a lot of it is quiet. So I'm not sure the partner, I mean, there may be some things that they might notice, but if I'm waiting for you to drop the other shoe, for example, you might not even recognize that I'm waiting for you to drop the other shoe. It's just a part of that conditioning and I'm trying to feel things out. So yeah, the only other thing I would say is that, again, she talked about that calm and that consistent, like when you realize that something about the kindness or that you're not ever going to see a disappointing look. I'm telling you, you're going to get somebody who looks at you with disappointment because we are incapable of never, like, I'm incapable of of being a person who will never disappoint somebody, right? Did that make any sense? And so there are going to be moments where I'm going to feel a certain response that's not necessarily unhealthy, but because of my experience, it may trigger something else from the past experience. So that was my thought with that. It's true what she says because of that conditioning. And also some of it is, I would say, not necessarily like my husband's a healthy guy, and yet every once in a while he'll look at me with a face of disappointment because he's disappointed in me because I earned
That's okay.
that. Right.
But he still
Right.
loves you and respects you through the
That's
disappointment. That's what you look
100%.
for.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. And that's rare. That's not a typical thing, right? Normally we're laughing and having fun and getting along, but we have disagreements and we have moments where we're not, and there are moments where we raise our voice. That was the other thing she said, like, he does it without raising his voice, or there was something else. And it's like, I'm not sure that claim is that is an abusive claim. I have raised my voice before.
It's hard to say any of this definitively in a short snippet like this
Right.
because,
Right.
yes, is a voice raised occasionally? Okay, that's not abusive. Is it every day?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Is it multiple times a day? Like that, there's points and times where you need to start setting the lines in the sand. But yeah, for the general just saying he raised his voice at me, he's abusive, or she raised her voice at me, she's abusive. That's reality. We get excited about things. People get amped up about things. Emotions
Passionate.
run high.
Yeah.
Passion speaks.
Well, and the other thing is, my husband may raise his voice at me occasionally. I mean, it is rare. Actually, today, it's much more rare that we fight. Like, now that we're empty nesters, we don't fight very often at all. Not that we fought over our kids, but you kind of do sometimes.
Well, yeah, I mean, isn't that like one of the biggest things with parents is just conflicting parenting ideas?
Hard. It's hard. Yes. So we don't very often fight. But one of the things I will say is we're never belittling. Like, none of our arguments are about, like, we don't hurt each other specifically to win an argument. It's not belittling. And so I do think that's an important piece. If that's happening in your relationship, that is a sign of abuse. I like these conversations.
Yeah, I like the conversation around.
Okay. Here's a guy. This will be good.
Well, okay.
That'll be good.
Poor relationship don't make you too needy and are the bare minimum if someone actually wants connection and trust with you. Number one, consistent communication. This is someone who makes a plan if they're going to be busy. They don't just disappear for days with no explanation. They follow through. They text or call regularly. This is not too much to ask from someone who is supposed to be building something with us. This is just called being reliable. Number two, the need for respect. No relationship will be mutually fulfilling if one person tries to hold all the power and looks down their nose at the other. We don't have time for people who think they can speak with belittling or demeaning language, constantly critical, and get away with it. If they don't respect you, that's a non-negotiable. Respect doesn't mean obedience. It simply means equality. I treat you how I would like to be treated. Three, the need for emotional responsiveness. Dr. Sue Johnson says that this is the glue that holds all relationships together. This is what makes or breaks everything. Being emotionally responsive means intentionally stepping into each other's inner world and being a safe place for your partner to be vulnerable about the things that matter most to them. We do that by staying curious and empathetic. Do you make it evident that you are trying to understand them, or are you just waiting for your turn to speak? Number four, the need to repair after conflict. It's not usually the fights that destroy the relationship. It's the inability to repair. How do we repair? By humbling ourselves and asking, what can I take accountability for in this? How can I empathize with how my words or actions affected them? And then asking them, what do you need to feel connected and safe again?
Wonderful.
I'm going to go out and say I actually really like that one. The only thing I will say on the fourth point, he had said something there. He said the fights themselves don't matter, but it's the repair process. I think that's a little bit false to state it that way. Just in the fact of, just to a point earlier in our previous video there, had you brought up, fights can get nasty if you don't have good communication with each other, or if you're just trying to have these emotional tug of wars, like fights can get very nasty. And if you're not mature and you don't have that dialogue, people go personal, is how I like to put it. You get personal too quick and feelings get irreversibly hurt. And so I think that was the only preface on that video that I'm like, that's the only thing I would change, is how he worded that part of thing. But I liked the rest of that, actually. I thought that was very good feedback for people, very good instruction.
Because I think it is how you fight. And I think his point 3 set that up for healthy fights.
Yeah.
I suppose.
And I kind of get that too. And that's where I think maybe he should have phrased that in 4 of like, in a
healthy
typical fight, or maybe in a healthy fight, things can look like this. But yeah, that's the only thing I thought. I thought the rest of it was great.
I like what you brought up. I do think he kind of set it up for that. So in a healthy fight, I agree. I like to think of it as, the fight causes damage and the repair is like glue. And so sometimes you put it back together. It doesn't mean that you're not affected by what might have been said or done during that argument, but the repair can help bring it back together and strengthen you again.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I really liked that. I thought everything you said was right on. Respect. All of those together are a healthy relationship.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, especially in the fact too, like we had talked love languages earlier, that should always be a core part of your relationship. So obviously that round 4 there is going to kind of go and should be tailored to how your partner is.
Right.
And that shouldn't be just a copy and paste method of like, oh, I'm so sorry. I love you so much. It'll never happen again. It should be a true romantic gesture in their language.
Right. Well, and obviously this was also set up for dating relationships as opposed to long-term relationships, because if my husband doesn't call or text me and just disappears for days on end, I'm going to have a problem with that.
Yeah. I think that's a good point too, is like that was very clear, like kind of early dating points of maybe like a couple months into a relationship kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which again, not bad advice at all. But if somebody within a first couple weeks of you just ghosts you for 3 or 4 days and then just comes back, oh, sorry, and doesn't give you a real reason.
And
that's not
to his credit, he did say when you're trying to build something.
Yes,
so I took
exactly.
When it's established.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, that was right on. I will also add though, like we have always set this up from day one to our kids and everything. Communication is key. And it is not, we always I will text my husband, hey, headed home, so that he knows, I'm just for courtesy, common courtesy, or even my kids, if they've been traveling, hey, text me when you get home so I know you're safe, or whatever the case may be. I just think there are common courtesy things that you can do in a relationship that I have had some people say, well, I don't want to have to let you know every step of my day. Well, no, you don't. But there are common courtesy things.
That's not what you're asking either.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right. Well, should we do one more and see?
Yeah, I think we got time for one more.
Yeah. Okay. Here we go.
You want a great relationship. One of the most important characteristics that you should look for in a romantic partner is called psychological stability. This means that when something goes wrong, how long does it take for them to get back to normal? For instance, if you have an argument and they don't talk to you for 3 days, that's going to be a chaotic relationship. If they get a flat tire and their entire week is ruined, then being in a relationship with them is going to be like walking through a landmine. You want somebody who can handle the ups and the downs of life, and then they can process their own emotions, come back to you, and connect quickly. Because love doesn't thrive in drama, it thrives in emotional safety.
The guys are coming at it with good takes, I feel like, today.
I like that. I agree.
I do like his take on that. I think the only thing that I would fire back against it would kind of be that there are certain other factors that will play into some of those. Like, for instance, the tire example he used. If I blow a tire, I'm probably going to be bummed out about it for a week because, that's just money that you don't plan to ever have leave, right? And some people might find themselves in a worse off situation than that. Like, I might get frustrated that my tire blew all week, I'm not going to be upset about it, but I might be a little frustrated with it. But in some other cases, if that tire blows, that person might not have a car for a month because they don't have money to get it fixed. That's an expense that they cannot plan for and could not pivot to make that accommodable. So I think a little bit might play into that, just as a life can happen kind of thing. But other than that, I really liked the message that he kind of shone through.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, and I think, and this is how I took it. I'd love to hear your thoughts too, Rebecca, that I took it as, yes, I agree with you. In fact, you had a tire situation
I did.
and you were without a car for a while, and it bums you out, right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't make you miserable to live
Right.
with every day. And
Exactly.
I think that's the difference. Like, you are going to, if you have a tire blow and then you might have to deal with a situation for a week, for example, but
Your
also then
girlfriend's not going to suffer from that.
exactly.
And you're not coming home each day screaming about the tire. You know, I think that was like the only misconstrued part that I
Yeah.
had before. Other than that, I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, that should be generally true.
Yeah.
And that's the first time I've heard that, the psychological stability.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it's
I
like,
haven't heard it said like that either, but I like it.
and it makes total sense. I think that I've seen people who something happens and that it envelops their whole world. Like, this is now how I'm going to respond negatively to everything in my life. And I think that's kind of that piece that, yeah, you can self-soothe. You have the ability to self-soothe, and you have the ability to look at things in different ways. So just because my tire blew doesn't mean everything in my life is horrible. And I think that's kind of
And it's
that was
important to
good.
remember that this is something that can develop over time too, because
Mhm.
I can see elements of myself in that when I was really unhealthy. Like when I was struggling and not doing well, like I had no place being in a relationship at that time in my life because I was not in a healthy
Right.
place.
Right.
Now it's completely different. And so I think that's something to acknowledge too, of like, if you see elements of that in yourself, then
Yeah.
you're not ready.
Right.
That's
Right.
a good point.
That is excellent. Yeah. Well, that was fun. I gotta say, and I don't think we didn't have it planned where it was 3 women, 2 men. That wasn't planned. But I
That was
gotta
cool.
tell you, I think the men killed that one. I mean,
They won this round.
if I had to vote, it would go to the men on this
I would
one.
too. I was a little surprised by that, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because let's just be real, the internet exists and both extremes are there. And
100%. We weren't listening to Andrew Tate. So,
right. Let me tell you why I'm not even gonna go there.
you
Just
know
that
what
guy.
we should review? Manosphere videos.
That
Do
would
you
be
know what
interesting.
Manosphere is?
I'm not sure I do.
It's the
You're not
Andrew
gonna
Tate.
like it.
Is
No,
that like his show?
well, no, it's like a whole culture. The manosphere culture is that Andrew Tate mindset. Like, I'm the man, I'm masculine. Talk about misogyny on a extreme level. But the things, like, literally, they believe women are only used for sexual,
It's not,
like,
it's more than just a relationship dynamic. It is a whole, like, you are
Right.
less than mindset.
yes,
Because I think there's room for if you want to have a more traditional relationship. But when you start saying
Sure.
this person is, it's different. We could do a whole thing
but
on that.
it's not even that women are less than them. Men are less than them too if they don't look a certain way, if they don't make a certain amount of money, if they're not working
It's a
out.
trend.
I mean, it is. Let's do a manosphere one.
Gosh.
I would love to.
I grew up in very, very rural environment. I've been around a lot of talk in my day. I'm just going to put it that way.
Mhm.
I don't think I've ever had that kind of level of it. So it's almost like watching a train wreck. You can't look away.
It's true. So yeah, let's do some of that.
I like it. How about we try not to react?
That would be
Try
a fun.
not to react what he's saying.
Yeah,
do
that
it.
would be fun. I'm not sure I'd do a good job.
I'm not sure any of us. I think we're all going to start.
We're a very expressive group.
I love it. We are an expressive
A little
group.
bit.
That's a good thing.
So anyone who's listening today, knowing that episode is in our future, send us clips that you might want us to
Yeah.
try not to react to. You can email it
Oh, I
info
love
at
it.
Project. and we would love to see what you've got for us.
That
Yeah,
would be
we'll even
fun.
go on the extreme of like, hey, even some funny ones or some maybe painful looking ones. We'll have a little bit of fun with this one.
Yes,
Open
let's
it up
do
a little bit.
I'm excited. That'll be fun.
Well, thank you all for listening today. Great to react to TikToks with you. Love that part of the job. But thank you so much. Feel free to let us know what you'd like us to react to in the future. We love to hear what you want to see. Share this with a friend and get tomorrow.